John Chapman is a Marine Corps veteran suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He places 3 shot glasses in front of him. He leaves one empty, puts 1 bullet in the second, and 2 bullets in the third. He begins naming his fellow soldiers who died in the war, counting until he sees which glass the last name falls on. Luck lands on the glass with 2 bullets, and he drinks the whiskey from it. The more bullets, the lower the chance of survival. He then loads the bullets into the cylinder of a revolver. Fortunately or unfortunately, this attempt ends only with the silent click of the trigger. It means today is not the day he is meant to die. During the day, Chapman goes out to buy more alcohol when 2 armed robbers suddenly burst into the store. Without fear, John stands in their way and advises them not to aim for the stomach, because a shot there would leave the victim alive. The hero grabs the barrel of the gun and suggests they shoot him in the chest or head. This provocation completely unbalances and dazes the criminal. Chapman grows tired of waiting and knocks one of them out. The second attacker lunges at him, but John knocks him out as well. In his head, flashes of the horrors of war rush by. He takes the alcohol from the store and leaves. That night, war flashbacks once again keep John from sleeping. He tries to distract himself with intense training, but it doesn't work. In a fit of rage, he punches through the wall. The next morning, while Chapman is home with a hangover, someone knocks furiously at his door. It turns out to be his sister, Cindy, whom he forgot to pick up from the airport. Knowing her brother's condition, she isn't surprised by the outcome. She tells him she has come for a couple of days to attend a friend's wedding, after which she will return to Brazil to continue her charity work in dangerous, crime-ridden neighborhoods. John worries about her, but it's obvious there is no point in arguing. Cindy checks if her brother is taking the pills that help with his psychological condition. Turns out he has been replacing them with breath mints. A couple of days later, Cindy leaves. She kisses John while he sleeps and tells him to take care of himself. Sometime later, Cindy is found barely alive on the ocean shore by 2 Brazilian police officers, Catarina and Paulo. News spreads that an American citizen has been brutally attacked. The U.S. ambassador is informed that she was found in the favelas and is clinging to life by a thread. Soon, the news reaches John. When he is told over the phone, he immediately flies to Rio de Janeiro to visit his sister in the hospital. Meanwhile, police officers go to the favelas to question the locals, but no one tells them anything. Following the sound of gunfire, they encounter a detective, Santo, who has already detained suspects involved in weapon smuggling. He tells Catarina and her partner they are doing a poor job since an American citizen was found half dead in their territory. He accuses her of being too soft on the locals and allowing crime to spread in her area. But his speech is interrupted when a stone is thrown at his back, and everyone present nervously draws their weapons, ready to open fire. Realizing they are outnumbered, Santo lowers his weapon and proposes resolving things fairly by challenging the strongest local fighter to a duel. He pits his partner, Baroro, against him. The detective promises that if Baroro loses, his men will leave and no one will be arrested. In the fight, the massive police officer has no trouble defeating his opponent, easily knocking him out with masterful spins and flips. Santo loudly declares that he and his men will return whenever they want. The locals cast hostile glares at him. Meanwhile, our hero arrives in Brazil, where he is met by the ambassador, Manny Ridley, a fellow veteran and old acquaintance. Together, they visit the hospital where Chapman sees Cindy in a coma. Once again, his mind is flooded with images of dead bodies that once traumatized him during his service. Detective Santo also enters the room, introduced by Manny as the man in charge of the investigation. The ambassador urges Chapman to stay calm and leave all the work to the detective. John asks to be taken to the crime scene, but Santo responds that the favelas are no place for tourism. John replies, "Well, I'm not an ordinary tourist." They agree to take the American to the crime scene. As they drive through the favelas, they share grim visions of a world where children grow up to become new criminals, where God shows no mercy and fuels wars. John is met by Catarina, but during their conversation, the veteran mistakes the sound of an old car backfiring for gunfire and suddenly pulls the pistol from Catarina's belt. In an instant, about 5 guns are aimed at John, ready to kill him at the slightest movement. The detective calms everyone down and explains the rules of conduct. She takes him to the crime scene, and John notices it is a very busy place. There must have been witnesses. She explains that here, people follow their own laws and never betray anyone. The salaries of clinic and school workers have long been paid by the drug cartels, while the government has abandoned these neighborhoods. That is why the locals protect the criminals. This is a big problem for Katerina, because every careless action by law enforcement could provoke more victims and tragedies. Back at the hospital, during visiting hours, Cindy suddenly suffers a seizure, and Chapman calls a nurse to check her vitals. He shouts, "Intensive care now." How long has she been like this? Her condition worsens rapidly. Turns out someone tried to kill her again. Shortly before, a woman disguised as a doctor of Asian appearance had tampered with the life support machines. John recognizes her as the one he saw earlier when he entered the room. He had asked, "Everything okay?" And she replied, "Oh yes, time for her medication." Demanding that police be posted in Cindy's room, John later finds a young man named Kaka in the favelas. Prowling the shore, he might know something. John notices a necklace around his neck that belonged to Cindy and demands answers. Kaka and his friends attack, but they are no match for the experienced Marine. Kaka pulls a knife, but John skillfully disarms him and threatens him. However, the boy doesn't speak English, and the situation is saved by Katerina's arrival. She explains that Cindy worked with Kaka's family, and his sister Maria was also a victim of local criminals. She disappeared without a trace. The necklace was a gift of friendship. Kaka hands Chapman Cindy's notebook, but John notices that many pages have been torn out. As John leaves with the police officer, the same Asian woman watches them and makes a phone call. That night, we see a street full of prostitutes, watched from a car by the detective and his partner. At one point, a red Lamborghini pulls up next to the women. They ask, "How much?" "35. "How much?" "50. The police run out and begin beating the man, revealing that this is actually a black market for underage girls, and such a crime carries a prison sentence. At the same time, John studies his sister's notebook and finds the phone number of a photographer who had recently worked with Cindy. He calls him and arranges a meeting in a cafe, where the man explains that Cindy had involved him in a photo series about the harsh fate of children in the favelas. He believes Cindy got into trouble because she was investigating the disappearance of underage girls working the streets at night. "Everyone thinks they're dead, but your sister was convinced something else was going on," he says. She also asked the photographer to take secret photos of her meeting with an informant. The man says he gave all the photos to Cindy. John realizes the photographer is hiding something. As they part ways, he hugs the man goodbye and secretly steals a USB flash drive from his pocket. The photographer gets into his car, and suddenly there is a deafening explosion that kills him instantly and injures nearby bystanders. Seeing the explosion, Chapman is hit by war flashbacks once again. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he spots the Asian woman who had tried to kill his sister in the hospital. He chases her, and around the corner, he sees her get into a black SUV. At the same time, another black SUV screeches into view, packed with men armed with automatic weapons who open fire. Barely dodging the bullets, John grabs a pistol from a security guard who has just been gunned down and returns fire, wounding the attackers and forcing them to speed away. Shortly after, in Ridley's office, the Marine explains that the attackers had strange tattoos on their arms. They could be part of the Japanese diaspora, since the suspicious woman was also of Asian appearance. On the USB drive, they also discover photos of Cindy with a man near a nightclub called Kronos, and Manny takes Chapman there. The man in the photos turns out to be a DJ, and John follows him into the bathroom. First, he knocks out the guard, then the DJ himself. He pulls out a suitcase full of documents and beats the address of a client who might be related to the attack out of the smuggler. After learning the address, the next day Chapman, accompanied by Ridley, goes to pay the new target a visit. The place turns out to be a villa where wealthy men spend their time with beautiful women. Meanwhile, we see Santo at a police briefing, giving instructions to his officers about the criminals. He says the time has come to hunt them down, without mercy or regret, to put them all underground. They prepare for a raid against drug traffickers in the favelas. Tiago prays before launching the assault. Many criminals are simply gunned down indiscriminately. John enters the mansion and sees a large number of semi-naked women. His presence is immediately reported to the Asian woman, who is counting money upstairs. She says she will handle the problem herself and that there is no need to inform her boss, Hiramoto, yet. A guard invites Chapman out onto the balcony, where John notices a van pulling up with small girls inside. Among them is Maria, Cucca's missing sister. At that moment, he is attacked from behind, but he quickly removes the garrote from his neck and knocks out the guard. John finds the room where the kidnapped children are being taken and hides when a crowd of Yakuza gangsters dressed in black arrives. Meanwhile, the police raid in the favelas continues. One of Santo's men also sees several Yakuza dressed in black taking children to a car and stops them. The detective praises his subordinate until suddenly, he lets the Yakuza go. The corrupt detective then informs his employers. The Asian woman says they need to cover their tracks. He asks, "The American girl?" She replies that everyone she could have talked to is dead. The woman says the detective will receive his payment later at the port. Then she calls her boss, Hiramoto, and reports that the American is interfering with the business and must be eliminated. Tiago will handle it, she says. At Hiramoto's meeting, the man from the club, Lima, is also present. Because he allowed the documents to fall into Chapman's hands, he is executed with a single stroke of a katana. The young girls watch the execution in horror. Chapman continues through the mansion, but Hiramoto's men see him. Using the briefcase as a weapon, he defends himself against 5 attackers at once, but suddenly Santo and Bororo arrive, aiming their guns at Chapman and demanding he stop and hand over the briefcase with documents. Katerina and her partner also arrive after hearing reports of gunfire. Her presence prevents Tiago from carrying out his plan. Chapman takes the police to the room where the girls were, but it is now empty. So he shows them the documents proving the Yakuza's involvement in human trafficking. Tiago demands the Marine hand over the briefcase so it can be added to the case file. "We'll handle it from here," he says. John hands over the briefcase and begins to leave, but suddenly realizes he had never mentioned Lima's name in the conversation. That means Tiago is also involved in the crimes. The Marine tells Katerina to go to the hospital and check on Cindy, while he follows the detective and hides in his car. Katerina arrives at the hospital just seconds before a hitman can finish the job and kill Cindy. The hitman says, "I forgot. Stop. Police all that." Later, Santo arrives at the port while John watches from a distance as the children are taken into a warehouse. He also sees a ship with a Japanese flag, prepared to smuggle the children to Japan. He calls Ridley and reports his grim findings. His friend disapproves of the Marine's plan since John is unwilling to wait for reinforcements. Using all his combat experience, Chapman moves in silence, eliminating the gangsters one by one as he moves between containers and barrels. Tiago is also nearby, and in a shootout with him, John pushes a forklift that pins the corrupt detective's leg. Tiago is about to die, but Bororo saves him, disarming Chapman and facing him in capoeira. John counters his acrobatic moves with solid, efficient strikes. Santo frees himself from under the forklift and tries to help Bororo, but proves much weaker than his partner. Then Hiramoto joins in, slashing John's arm with his sword. Chapman dodges his blade, but soon he is surrounded by the 3 enemies. Santo tries to stab the Marine with a knife, but instead, the blade ends up buried in Bororo's leg. Santo is knocked out. In a final move, John rips the cross from his neck and stabs it into his heart. Only the Yakuza boss remains. For the duel, Chapman arms himself with 2 steel pipes. Blocking and redirecting the sword, he pushes it toward the enemy's throat, but Hiramoto reveals a hidden blade inside the hilt and stabs John in the stomach. But John will not be pushed further. Gathering his strength, he crushes the Yakuza with powerful blows to the head, finishing him off. Bleeding out, Tiago gives John the keys to his locker, which contains a list of everyone involved in the crimes, police, judges, even government officials. The detective admits he is the only one in his family who lived past 45. Dying, he says he has done many things, but he didn't touch Cindy. At that moment, the enraged Japanese boss makes one last attack, and John shoots him several times. As he leaves, Chapman puts the pistol in Tiago's hand, so he won't suffer anymore. Ridley and the police arrive at the docks, and Chapman frees the children from captivity. As for Cindy, her life is no longer in danger, but her health has been seriously damaged. John says, "I thought I'd feel better once the guilty ones were caught, but when I saw Cindy..." Stop. You can't think like that. You're going to destroy yourself." Ridley offers to pay for her treatment, on the condition that Chapman becomes an undercover agent for the intelligence services. John asks, "When do I start?" Manny never doubted the answer. John is immediately given the codename Falcon, his old call sign from the Marine Corps,